Aside from the occasional appearance on Fox News, Donald Trump has been conspicuously absent from the campaign trail in the last week, and his team admits they can no longer compete in states like New Hampshire or Minnesota. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. As you may recall, Republicans had a very specific architecture-related complaint about Joe Biden starting in 2020. They were super particular about which room Joe Biden spent his time in.
Joe Biden is sleeping or whatever he's doing in his basement. He doesn't seem to come out a lot.
Is it like the campaign where he was hiding in the basement?
That was his strategy all the way along, hide in the basement.
Sending Joe Biden back to his basement.
Keep him locked up in a basement all day long.
Basement Biden.
Will Joe Biden debate or will he hide in his basement?
Joke's on you, he did both. He debated, then he hid in his basement. And let me just say this, whatever you think of Joe Biden, I guarantee of any president we've ever had, he has the best basement. Look at this dude. You think that guy's not rocking a kick-ass basement that's chock full of treasures? Hey, you ever hear of Satchel Paige? This is his baseball glove. Want a beer? No, not the fridge. We got it on tap. I'm not kidding around. You like pinball? And now he's a few months away from being there full-time, just listening to Frank Zappa records while he works on his model trains. When he's out of office in 4 months, he's gonna grow out his hair, start wearing a man bun, and get super into hydroponics. It'll never stop being funny to me that Republicans dared Biden to leave his basement and debate Trump. He did, and it backfired on them spectacularly. Even Donald Trump knows it.
We're gonna get Joe Biden out of the White House. What's he doing now? Greg, what's he doing? You know, he wanted to debate. If we didn't have a debate, he'd still be there. Can you imagine if we didn't have a debate? Why the hell did I debate him?
I mean, I think that's the first time I've ever heard him regret something. He straight up sounded wistful there. Sounds like he's talking about an old flame. Oh, why the hell did I let Maxine get away? We had a torrid romance in Paris, and then we went our separate ways. She returned to her domestic life in the suburbs in Milwaukee, and I continued to busk on the streets of Europe singing and dancing for money. Sadly, no one would ever pay me because they can't recognize talent. Why'd I let Maxine get away? The point is, Republicans were obsessed with Biden's location. You heard them. If you're running for president without making any campaign appearances, you're clearly in cognitive decline.
President Biden appeared with Vice President Kamala Harris in Pittsburgh on Labor Day, urging union voters to stand with the Democratic nominee. And earlier that day, Harris made a solo stop in Detroit. Both cities are two of the biggest centers of organized labor. Harris's running mate Tim Walz focused his attention on union workers in Milwaukee. On the Republican side, former President Donald Trump and his running mate J.D. Vance were absent from the trail.
I mean, in fairness, Trump and Vance were probably in the backyard in Mar-a-Lago hosting their annual neighborhood barbecue where old Weird Beard over here made awkward conversation with people. Anyone care for a hot dog sandwich? We have both red and yellow squeeze sauce. Now, Janet, you look to be childbearing age, and yet I don't see any children with you. Should I panic, or are they in the pool? You know what? Maybe I'm being hard on JD. I bet he'd be fun to have a beer with because, well, you know what? Let's just let him explain why.
Why would people in Wisconsin want to have a beer with you?
Well, I guess they'd want to have a beer with me because I actually do like to drink beer.
Well, it's official. J.D. Vance has done the impossible. He's made Mike Pence the fun one. J.D. Vance answers simple questions like he's in an episode of Frasier where Niles accidentally joins a biker gang. So Trump was MIA from the campaign trail on Labor Day, the traditional start of the fall campaign season. Tonight, he emerged from his basement to do a town hall on his favorite TV channel with his friend Sean Hannity. And that's all Trump seems capable of handling. He has to remain in the padded room of right-wing media where he can't be hurt by any tough questions or sharp objects and where the hosts lavish absurd praise on him. Over the weekend, he sat there stone-faced while right-wing weirdo Mark Levin laid it on so thick, even Trump seemed uncomfortable.
You've been a man of faith. You go to church. You believe in God.
Does? he have a church in his basement? Because if not, how are you so sure he goes? And are you asking him or trying to convince him? You normally only hear this level of coaching during police interviews where they're trying to coax out a confession. You went in there just to sell some cocaine, and then he's the one who pulled a knife. Isn't that right? You didn't want to kill him, right? I mean, look at Trump's face. I feel like even he's thinking, church, are you referring to me? Is there someone else in the room? But this is all Trump can stomach, friendly interviews with sycophants, and even then he finds ways to screw up, like when he seemed to confess that he actually did try to overturn the results of the 2020 election.
Whoever heard you get indicted for interfering with a presidential election where you have every right to do it?
Trump's so senile, he can't remember if he's supposed to be saying he didn't do it or he did and it's fine. It's the old rule. Every criminal eventually slips up 500 times. Isn't that right, JD? Trump's infrequent campaigning is especially odd because the election's almost here. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it's true. The next debate is in less than a week, and early voting in Pennsylvania starts in less than 2 weeks. I would say that's not a lot of time, but then again, as we know from recent experience, a lot of crazy can happen in 2 weeks. That's enough time for Joe Biden to re-enter the race, drop out a second time, accidentally endorse Donald Trump, rescind his endorsement, wander onto the debate stage next week because he forgot to take it off his calendar. He sees Harris and Trump together. He says, "What are you two doing here?" It's like a scene in a Mexican soap opera. And we know that Biden can do soap opera at debates because during the last one, he always looked like he just discovered his twin brother didn't actually die in that speedboat accident. Kevin. We know so much can change in the next 2 months because of how much has changed in the last 2 months. It wasn't long ago that the Trump campaign was so confident they thought they could win solid blue states, a position they've quietly slinked away from.
There is a tangible sign of how the race for president has changed lately. The Donald Trump campaign no longer thinks it has a chance to win in New Hampshire. That is the state that was seen as a possibility for Trump earlier in the campaign.
Just over a month ago, PBS notes in this account, Trump allies were suggesting Democratic-leaning states like Minnesota, Virginia, even New Jersey could be in play. Quote, neither side believes that's still the case here on this past Labor Day weekend.
Trump was so confident he thought he could win Minnesota, then Kamala picked Tim Walz, and Trump's chances of winning the North Star State disappeared faster than a pork chop on a stick at the state fair. Besides, what has Donald Trump ever done to earn the votes of Minnesotans? Trump's never put chains on a tire in the dead of winter or shoveled a snowy driveway or embezzled money from his business before colluding with a group of felons to orchestrate an elaborate scheme to solve his financial woes. All right, maybe he did that last one. And yeah, I know the movie's called Fargo, but Jerry Lundegaard's from Minnesota, so back off, jackals. Fairness, I will say, I can understand why Trump thought he could compete in New Jersey, not because they like him there. They don't. They hate him so much they have a rest stop on the Parkway named the Donald Trump Memorial Hole. But because anyone who's from New Jersey has at least one weird uncle who met a stripper at Trump's Atlantic City casino in 1989 and still won't shut up about it. Oh, you should have seen this broad. She was a knockout. She stole my Rolex while I was sleeping. Hey. Don't tell your Aunt Brenda. Is he talking about that tramp he met in Atlantic City? No, we're talking about the Mets, you hoppy. Smoke another menthol, why don't you? She stole my wallet, too, worth every penny. With all that said, the polls are neck and neck, and Republicans have a very steep advantage in our absurd electoral college system. So the Harris campaign doesn't want anyone getting cocky or complacent.
It's going to be a tight race to the very end. So let's not pay too much attention to those polls. Because as unions and labor knows best, we know what it's like to be the underdog. And we are the underdog in this race.
This is one of the many differences between the candidates. Harris says, remember, we're the underdog, and Trump says, if we lose, it's because they stole it. Oh, Maxine! I can't lose again. I already lost Maxine. Even the fact that she has to insist she's the underdog tells you how much has changed. Before Biden dropped out, I'd wake up every morning at 5:45 in a cold sweat and refresh the New York Times election forecast until I saw at least one poll saying that Biden was within 5 points of Trump in Wisconsin so I could go about my day without grinding my teeth. And then he'd be down 9 and I'd scream and I'd wake up my kids and then they'd say, Daddy, what's wrong? And I'd say, Biden's down 9. And then they'd scream. And I don't know where they learn language like that. School. Yeah, it's probably school. A lot has changed, and a lot can still change. But one thing seems certain, the election's going to be close, and the pro-GOP bias of the Electoral College makes it even closer. Trump's hiding out in the bubble of right-wing media, hoping that's enough. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's just chilling in his basement, calling up his buddies and asking if they want to come over and
drink beer.
There's been a closer look.